Buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to En Casa con La Plaza. I'm Abelardo de la Peña Jr., Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. 3 times a week, we bring you the best of our community's history, art, and culture from our home to yours via these presentations, conversations, demonstrations, and performances. We've been doing this almost a year now, since April 22, and some weeks are better than others. Some weeks are a little bit more challenging, but we always try to end it every other week in a happy note, on a happy note. Brought to you by PepsiCo and Kaiser Permanente. If you joined us on Zoom, please use the chat feature, ask questions, and we'll answer them. Maybe not during the presentation, maybe towards the end of the conversation, but please let us know where you're viewing from. Those of you who have joined us on Facebook, make comments on the comment section, share the video, share the En Casa session with your friends, make comments, do shout outs, let us know where you're viewing from as well. So without further ado, before I get more tongue-tied than I already am, let's bring the man of the hour, of the happy hour, el Señor Dan Guerrero. Please, Dan, join in.
I'm zooming in and I'm getting my little beverage of choice. How are you? Where's your beverage of choice? You're always drinking something horrible.
No, this is the remnants of a paloma.
I'm afraid to ask what's in it. What's in it?
A little bit of tequila, just a little bit for dinner, with a grapefruit juice or grapefruit soda, a little Grand Marnier. Mwah.
Wow, you're like a professional drunk. Good for you.
You could say that.
So I'm very happy to say that last Monday was the 2 weeks following my second dose Pfizer.
Well, congratulations, Dan.
Yes, it wasn't easy, but it's getting easier for people. So get your vaccination and wear your mask and wash your hands.
All right.
Okay, that's my political statement for the day. So let's have fun. I'm excited about our guest. I'm always excited about my guest, but I love this lady. So you go away.
I sure will, but I'll see you in a little while.
Okay.
Adios.
Bye. So my guest tonight, like many of my guests, is a storyteller, and she does it with music, which is no big surprise because she grew up surrounded by boleros and cumbias and rancheras in the discoteca record store owned by her parents right here in Venice, California. And much later, she was introduced to a whole new world of music through a Canadian singer, songwriter, storyteller. And he was the legendary Leonard Cohen. So we're going to hear all kinds of stuff, and I can't wait for you all to meet the effervescent, the sparkling, and those words really fit her, bubbly Perla Batalla. Zooming in from Ojai. Are you there? Are you there, please?
Salud.
Ah, there you are. Look how beautiful you look.
Thank you. You look beautiful too, Dan.
I usually wear a burqa, but for you tonight, I decided to let it all hang out. What a beautiful setting. Just what I would expect. Here's to you, my dear.
Here's to you.
Oh, hi. Now you are a storyteller, right? And not only because I said it and the LA Times said it, but what I love is the LA Times added a born storyteller with a rambunctious sense of humor. And sometimes I can drink to that.
Storyteller just because I can't shut up. I just go on and on and on.
And we love it. Tell me about being a storyteller, because some people tell stories through film, through dance, through written word, and you, of course, do it through music.
Well, but I also tell a story. You know, my dad was a great storyteller. He was very funny, and he could do any accent, you know, in Spanish from any region. And he was hilarious, like always telling a good story. And then in my teens, a lot of my friends had famous actor parents because I grew up in Santa Monica. So, you know, near Malibu. So lots of TV people. And so as a kid, you know, I'd go over to the weekend with my friends to their houses. And next thing you know, Mel Brooks is telling a story at the table, or Rob Reiner, or, you know, just these great great people, lots of them that came from Broadway, but it was about storytelling, you know. So I would sit at the edge of my seat and listen to all these stories, and I just couldn't believe, you know, that this was my life. And I also at the time didn't know what an icon, say Mel Brooks was, or Rob Reiner, or you know, the older guy, Carl Reiner. I just think of Rob because he was the kid. But yeah, so it was just a heaven of storytellers that I grew up in.
And that's true. You don't really know because they're just the parents of your friends, and you may know they're famous, but you know, it seems ordinary
Right.
to you.
Right.
But,
And my parents, my friends' parents all adored me because I wanted to listen to these stories. And of course, their kids couldn't care less, but I was just like, oh, tell me more stories. And also, I mean, that's like children are thirsty for a story. I think they love someone telling them stories. And I've always been a person that was just enchanted by someone telling me stories.
I think you're right. I think children want to be transported. They're very open to traveling, you know, mentally and in their brains anywhere. And then it gets knocked out of you along the way sometimes, unfortunately. But you are a storyteller through your music, through your songs. And you've also been described as being very musically adventurous. Is that a fair assessment, you think?
Yes, it is. But I have to tell you, sometimes it's like white knuckling my way through creativity, because some of these things are really scary. You know, for instance, my dear friend Hal Wilner, who passed away due to COVID, heartbreaking to lose him. But Hal would put these shows together, some that were super adventurous and of some people that I had never heard of. For instance, there was the Fire Sign Theater Company.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little before my time, so I really didn't know anything about it. And he said, so Perla, it's going to require that you do a little, you know, reading of a script, but also, and I'm like, acting, So, and the singing part I can do. And the show had all these great comics in it. And then Todd Rundgren was in it. And it was just this crazy, crazy show. And at intermission, about half the audience left.
You were a hit. You were a hit.
Well, and I said to Hal, oh, Hal, I'm so sorry. Half the audience left. And he said, you know what? That means it's a huge success. I love it when people leave. But he did stuff like that. And, you know, through him, that was exciting. It was trying new things. It was, you know, flying by the seat of your pants. And so, you know, in fact, to get rid of my stage fright, I had such stage fright as a young person. I took an improv class.
Good.
And I was terrified. Every weekday, every Wednesday, I had to go to class, and I would just be like shaking and want to make an excuse to not go. But I went, and it was all about risk. And I did it, and it helped me immensely. From then on, you know, I just said, hey, all you have to do is show up, be honest, talk about what's going on in your life. And, you know, and that's so far worked very well for me.
And speaking of live performances, I mean, with this global pandemic, I mean, everyone has suffered, God knows, and in many, many, many ways, but we're talking about performances and live performances these days, and what a loss that has been on both sides of the curtain, you know, yes, for the people sitting out there and for the performer. And were you, because I know you were in Europe, I have a couple of great photos I'm going to show right now, but were you on tour when everything shut down? Were you on tour, or were you back home?
Well, I tour pretty much year round, and I had just finished a concert in the, you know, San Diego area, and getting ready to go to New York and play Town Hall and do like perhaps the biggest concert of my solo career. And then getting ready to do more spring shows, and then my European tour, which was going to be October, November, completely canceled. it was a blow, like an absolute blow. And because I adore live performing, I love the connection you have with an audience, and that's hard. That's hard for me.
And that's really what it is. You know, people think it's about the applause. It's not about the applause, which ain't bad, but it is not about, it's not that at all. It's that connection, and you have them, and it's like you're playing with a friend in the backyard, you know, and there's that connect, and you can't beat that. We have a couple of amazing photographs that I think are from you. Look at that.
Yeah,
well, honey, you can fill a house. Where was that? Where was that?
That was in Belgium. Oh, it's such a beautiful theater in Antwerpen.
Oh.
A theater that was created, it was a falling down movie house, and then volunteers in the town came together to build it up. And they do, and still it's run by volunteers, and the theater does all these special events for them, and they are treated like royalty, which in my opinion they are, for restoring that beautiful hall, which is stunning.
Absolutely. And we have another one that is really jaw-dropping. Where was this? It looks like Notre Dame Cathedral. Where the heck?
That's in London. Wow. That is the Union Chapel in London. Oh my gosh. And you know, we don't have buildings that old in the United States. No. And as you know, because you've played a lot of theaters, I am enchanted with the ghosts in a theater.
Yes.
I feel like I like to get to a theater early enough so I can kind of become friends with it and feel all the spirits that are in there. And also because I'm singing a lot of Leonard Cohen in those halls, I like to sort of conjure up Leonard and get him to join me. And so it so happened in those places.
Oh, I believe so, because there's a history there, and it doesn't go away. I mean, the physical may go away, but that sense of that soul, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. When you think about how many artists have poured their souls into that room and on that stage.
That's right.
You can feel it. It's palpable.
I agree. I agree. And you have had to do what is a lot of live performers have done is you've gone virtual. And I have a photo that to me spells it. Look at that. Look at that. That is performing in the pandemic era. That's Royce Hall, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about this. Tell us about this.
Oh, I was like their guinea pig, you know. They had decided, because I had a big concert coming up that UCLA was sponsoring at the Ace Hotel. The same month.
Which is gorgeous. That's a gorgeous hotel with spirits.
I can't wait to do that. But so we didn't get to do the Ace Hotel, and the New York concert was canceled. But UCLA, I mean, they have been my they're my family. Some of my very first concerts were there. And of course, I've done many concerts there with Hal Willner at Royce Hall, and of my own there. So they said the show will go on. It's going to go on. And during after the lockdown, there was we eased up a little bit on people, the stay-at-home orders for a little bit, a month or two. And they said, we're going to go ahead and do it. We'll take all the safety precautions at Royce Hall. You come here and, we'll do the show. And I have never been so grateful. I mean, I wept for joy and I wept for sadness because the room was empty. But I was so happy to sing again with my musicians. And it was a family affair because all about my parents' record shop, and my brother was there and he performed. So anyway, it was a beautiful way to sort of come back and engage once more.
We're going to talk about the Discoteca Batalla, but before we do, you said something interesting right now. Yes, you wept for happiness and for sadness. What did it really feel like to be bearing your soul with nobody there to catch it? What was that like?
Well, it was, you know what, because we had basically been at home, Claude, the two of us, it was for me, it was a taste of being with other people.
True.
And that in it, that was satisfying. I didn't for once, and I knew it was going to be broadcast, so people would eventually be there with me. But it's still the fact that my friends that were my family, my extended family of UCLA were there. My
Your
band
musicians,
members were there.
you were interfacing with them.
And that was really important. I mean, it was as though, you know what, this is okay. This is really okay, because we're connecting on a very deep level. And I don't know that I've seen, you know, such happy people. I had seen such happy people in a long time. So it was beautiful in many ways. We focused on that, let's say.
Yes, yes. And let's talk about what the show was, because now we're going to get into, and I can't wait to hear every little juicy bit about the Discoteca Batalla, which was a legendary place that your mom and pop owned. Mom and pop, I sound like I'm from Mayberry. That your mom and dad owned in Venice, and which was a lot more than a record store. But first of all, I want to see your dad, because I want to hear about your dad. He was a Mexican singer and DJ. Tell us about your dad.
My dad, what a character he was. You know, he did sing, like was in a mariachi band and had a trio, and he's a beautiful, beautiful singer. Had a lot of other problems that I think stopped him from doing all the things he could have done as a singer. He was an alcoholic, and I think he had a lot of, you know, emotional problems that kept stopping him. And but he decided, because it was very difficult for him to work for other people. I think he was, you know, he was not a tall man, so there was maybe a little Napoleonic thing going on there. But he decided he wanted to open a record store and cater to our Latino neighborhood, because we were West Side Latinos. So that means that our population was really small compared to, you know, the East LA Latino population, which was a huge sort of
right. Especially at that time. We're talking what, 60s, 70s? What?
Oh yes, 60s, yeah. And so it was a pretty small population there, but Venice had a few, and we were sort of on the border of Venice and Santa Monica. So they opened up this little record store. It was before all the big warehouse stores opened up. So my parents, and especially my mother, because she was a force to be reckoned with, she ran the record store. People were devoted to her. She would help people write letters to send home. If they needed a little money, I'm sure she passed some on to them. She was very much this, you know, matriarch of the neighborhood.
We have a photo of your mom. Can we jump to Barbara? Look at that. Look at her. She looks so happy there, helping people, being with people.
And that's my mother, my blonde hair, blue-eyed mother, who told the world she was Mexican.
But she was in fact in Austrian roots from Argentina.
She's an Austrian-Hungarian Jew. And I found this out much later because you know, I think I was like 5 years old or something. And we always got up really early. My mom and I, was a thing we did. We did all the laundry at the laundromat for the family. And we'd go have pastries at this little German deli. And one day she starts to speak German to the person behind the deli counter.
How old are you then?
I'm like 5. And I said, Mom,
what
are you? And what have you done with my mother? I couldn't believe it. I like, what language is that even? I didn't know German from any. And she said, oh, okay. Well, she had to tell me the whole story. I'm not Mexican, but I tell people that because if I didn't tell them that, they wouldn't trust me, and I want to help them. So she told everyone. And so they called her Güera because she's blonde hair. Sure. And she completely lost her Argentine accent so she could speak Mexican Spanish.
Yeah. Now your mom is named Barbara, your dad Jorge. Mm-hmm. And how did they meet? Where was your dad from?
My dad was from Aguas Blancas, which is somewhere near Acapulco. And it's later I learned that it was one of the slave ship ports during the days of slavery. They would arrive there. And so everyone was mixed and no one thought anything of it. I mean, it's just the way it was there.
They were Afro-Mexicanos.
Afro-Mexicanos, that's right. And my parents, my mom came from Buenos Aires to Los Angeles to be an au pair for a family. And she was 16 or 17.
Wow.
And she worked for this family for a couple of years, and then it just didn't work out. So she figured out if she was going to survive, she didn't want to go back to Argentina. And she thought if she was going to survive, she had to learn how to speak English. And my father also came to make it in the music business or whatever. And they both ended up in English class. And that's how they met each other.
Oh.
Neither of them ever learned how to speak English very well. They decided to have children who could speak English for them.
Oh, that's very common. My grandparents were here for 3,000 years, and and all the kids had to pay the electric bill, and they never learned a word of English.
Right. And also, you know what? My sister's the oldest, and then me, and then my brother George, who's passed away, and then my brother Rick, who's the youngest. And my sister and I spoke Spanish, but we were so encouraged to speak English that my brothers barely spoke any Spanish. And even I wish that, I had more practice speaking Spanish and was able to be way more fluid than I am, because I love the language.
And everyone worked at the discoteca, right? We have a photo of your dad and you, I think.
Yes,
look at that.
We all had to work there.
Oh my God, that place looks like a piñata. It's so
oh my God, it was just, everything was crammed in there. It was just like a festival of stuff. And I could run the record shop from the time I was 10 years old. Like my mom would just go, okay, I have to go run some errands, you take over. And yeah.
But you weren't working this young, I hope. We have another photo here. You weren't that young, I hope, and working, were you?
I probably was. Yeah. And you know what? If anyone, like, I'm accused of, trying to run the show all the time, but I've got experience. So you're in good hands. My mom felt so when I was little.
That is amazing. I love stories on how parents met, and you were very close family, I would assume.
Well, we were close in the way that, my parents just tried to, the girls in particular, we had to never go out, stay home. The world was a dangerous place, and different complete set of rules for my brothers. And so those like, and also the Catholic, thing.
An old world thing where the guys could do whatever they wanted and the girls couldn't.
It was ridiculous. And I told my mom early on, I said, what you're doing is basically ruining the boys because they're all, spoiled rotten. And so, you're going to make it impossible for me to marry a Latino.
And you were right, weren't you? I want to know if you learned something else from your parents and how they were with people, because you were influenced musically, no question, but also how your parents, especially your mom maybe, was with all the people, and how open she was and caring and how she was with people. And I'll bet that has served you well because you're a public figure.
Oh, yeah. And also I'm an activist, and because of that desire to help people. My mother always instilled that in us, and in a very, and not necessarily like being involved in causes or anything. She just directly wanted to have an effect on helping people's lives. And that's what she did. Somebody needed help, she helped. She never talked about it or bragged about it or anything. She just went to work and made sure that whoever needed that help would get it. And I thought that was just so lovely of her.
What an interesting pair of parents you had. Yeah, and she was a doer. She really ran the record shop. My dad, with his issues, my mom just took care of him till the day he died. And so she was loyal like nobody's business. And
And, you know, and I don't know that he was always the nicest guy to her, but she was going to see it through, and she's going to take care of her children, and she's going to make sure that, you know, we never did without. And as a result, I left home because it was difficult. You know, there were things that I wasn't allowed to do. I had no freedom, and yet I was a great kid. I had good grades. I just wanted to do a little theater or a little dancing or a little this, and my hands were always tied by my father in particular. So I left home when I was 16. Wow. And when I had to break the news to him that I was leaving, I had arranged to live with my best friend's family. They were kind enough to say, absolutely, whatever you need, will you welcome here. And I thought, you know, I had to face my father to tell him face to face that I was moving out. And I said to myself, I'm either going to be able to walk out of this apartment or he will kill me, and I'll never walk anywhere.
Wow.
It was a very scary moment in my life.
But now tell me, this is fascinating. So you moved in with a friend and their family, and you continued school. And I
continued school. I was accepted with a complete scholarship to the Lee Strasberg Theater Academy, so I could sing and study and dance and do all the things I wanted to do. But I always had to have a job to pay my bills. And, you know, I stayed with my friends until I graduated high school, that family, and then I moved out and basically started working.
Wow. Started working as a performer or
as a performer, and then all kinds of jobs. Yeah. Because of my friends, you know, my Malibu friends, I got a job with Norman Lear at his TV company.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I was taught how to take photographs, and I was a photo editor. I was in the union by the time I was 21 years old. It was like How to Succeed in Business.
Oh, yeah.
I was an executive by the time I was 21 years old, running my department.
Oh my God, this is amazing. You're like your mama. You're a doer and you're a leader.
Well, I had to survive, and I guess I knew how to do it. So, yeah.
Wow. And you did it with flair and elegance. Let's drink to your mama.
Oh,
let's drink to your mama. And your dad too, but your mama.
Yeah.
It's the women.
So true. And then that's another thing, you know, my mother, if there's anything else that she instilled in me, my mother was always about style and grace. And, you know, Buenos Aires, people will tell you that people from Buenos Aires or Argentina are very self-involved, and but there's some good things that come out of that. In other words, like there's great style and great manners and great culture. I mean, culture is very important. And so my mother, you know, always had us dressed well, and she dressed my father, and he had incredible suits. And now my brother has inherited some of those. So that's another thing. My mom always, like, I never travel looking like, you know, a Midwestern tourist. That's out of the question.
You have all your stuff. You're not like Linda Ronstadt, who would go to thrift shops when she got to a town because she had nothing to wear in concerts. Oh, Cub Scout outfit. This looks good. That's literally what she did.
Linda was pretty freaking adorable. So she could wear anything and get away with it.
That's true. That's true. So, wow, that is so interesting. I'm fascinated. Are you all fascinated out there? I am. Let's talk Leonard Cohen, your mentor, your friend, your confidant, I'm sure. And you were quite young when you started with him. We have a photo of you, I believe, with, look at you. You're 8 years old. Tell us how you came. I know you auditioned for him, and we'll hear that, but how did you come to even know? Did you know who he was?
No, I not really. I mean, I knew that, I knew that he was the guy that wrote Suzanne. That was a big, folk song in the 60s, whenever I think it was Judy Collins who I first heard sing it. And that's about all I knew about him. And it was at a time when I had been working as a helping. I had quit with Norman Lear, and I was working as a publicist because at Tandem, I was which is Norman's company, I was doing a lot of, all the photography, which is in the marketing department. So that's the publicity department. So from there, I got a job doing all the publicity for this club in LA called the Vine Street Bar and Grill. So I've been doing that for a while, and I did, pretty well doing that. And I could support myself. But if anything, like anything got tricky, I needed dental work, or my finances were a disaster.
Right.
So anyway, I got to that point where things were very, very difficult. I was like weeping to my sister-in-law that I can't pay my bills. What am I going to do? And she said, well, she worked for Princess Cruises at the time. She said, come with me. I'll get you a job. And so I was at Princess Cruises sitting at a desk, punching in all these like reservation numbers. All I did all day was punch in reservation codes. And I just thought, oh my God, I won't be able to do this much longer. And I really thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown. And then I got hired by, I got this gig with a famous rock star singer, and it was a nightmare. I was so grateful to get a job doing music again.
And singing, doing what you love to do.
And singing, but it was rock, and it was loud, and I couldn't hear anything. And it was just a nightmare situation. So I never knew if anyone could hear me or what I was singing. And then I got fired from this gig because.
Why?
Well, because they said, you're not singing on key. And I said, well, I can't hear anything. What do you mean I don't know if I'm singing on key. You're also freaking loud because you're deaf. But anyway, so I was devastated and thought I was done for the world of music as a singer, that I couldn't do this. I was done. I was finished. And I called my mom and my dad, and I was just crying and crying and crying. And I was like, I've never been fired from anything. I'm horrified. I was so full of shame and sadness. And my dad, who's never, ever said an encouraging word to me in my whole life, said, you know what? And just clear, no emotion. You know what? Something's coming for you. You just have to, stop crying, pull yourself together, and something's on its way. And I swear it was 1 or 2 days before the phone call came from Leonard Cohen, his management, saying, we've been auditioning everybody in town, and your name came up today. Do you want to come in and audition? And I just said, yes. What do I have to prepare? And they said, nothing, just come. We'll show you the material, see if you, because it had stuff that, like, there were high C's, singing a high C is pretty up there, but I'd had some operatic training and I could do that, no problem. And I said, sure, I'll come in. So I did go to Tower Records the night before to find every Leonard Cohen cassette tape I could find, because this was 1988. We still had cassettes back then. So I listened to the music and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the lyrics because, as Latinos, we've listened to Spanish language lyrics our early lives, and the lyrics are so romantic and so profound because it's in Spanish and it's an awesome language, but that I think it's like a high quality of poetry that happens when you're writing songs in Spanish, especially with the kind of writers that we all grew up with, Armando Manzanero and José Alfredo Jiménez. Forget it. These guys are just masters. Anyway, Leonard's songs brought that back to me, like the soul, the depth of it. And I thought, well, okay, the most important thing that I have to do for this audition is decide what I'm going to wear. So I, thought about it as I listened to this music, and it came to me exactly what I had to wear. So I go into the studio and I walk in, and the musical director says, oh, do you want to meet Leonard? He's coming down the hall. And I said, yes, I'd love to meet him. So this figure starts walking toward me, and we start to smile, and then he giggles a little bit, and I see why he's giggling. He, of course, is Leonard Cohen, and he's dressed in black from head to toe, and I am dressed in white from head to toe. Like my shoes were white, you know, it was ridiculous. And he said, "Darling, this is a match made in heaven." And then the audition went really well, and I couldn't believe it when I got the phone call and said, "Pack your bags, you know, we're going to Europe for 3 months." I'd never been to Europe.
Wow. I'm a little, I thought of 8 questions at the same time. I should pick one, shouldn't I? I think, why don't you tell, some people may not be that familiar with Leonard Cohen. Tell us a little bit about him, because actually his music career started quite late, in his 30s. He was a novelist and a poet, Canadian.
Yeah, he was already a very, very successful Canadian poet. And he decided around that time in his 30s that he wanted to go to New York and I don't know, have a go at it as a singer songwriter, as a folk singer. And so he, you know, went to the coffee houses of New York with Bob Dylan, Allen Ginsberg, you know, you know, everybody was there.
All the kids.
Exactly. It was the scene. And he was terrified in many ways, but I also think he'd come from being a big star. So I guess that gave him some sense of feeling like he belonged there. And by all accounts, he absolutely belonged. And Judy Collins met him pretty early on, and immediately decided to record some of his songs, and they became like big hits for her. So she, like Leonard tells this hilarious story where she invites him to sing at a fundraiser. And so he goes to this fundraiser that he thinks is going to be, oh, it's a fundraiser. Like, it's a great way to get on stage and sing with her and get a little practice in. And he shows up at the Newport Folk Festival, and he walks out on stage to this ocean of people. And he's like, you know, Leonard, he's kind of petite, and he is carrying his guitar, and she introduced him, he walks out and stands there in terror and turns around and walks off stage. And backstage is his manager, Marty. And Marty says, you know, "Leonard, what are you doing?" And Leonard said, "Marty, I can't sing." And Marty said, "None of you guys can sing. I want to hear singers. I'll go to the Met." And that gave him the strength to get back out on stage and do his job. And that was the beginning of Leonard, the singer, Leonard Cohen, the singer.
And sing the lyric. He sang the lyric, I'm quite sure. You, because I mean, obviously he was not just your employer, because you became family, obviously.
So we were very dear friends, yeah.
And I read somewhere or heard somewhere where you, when you sing his lyrics, which you do very often in your concerts, that you visualize the whole scene, whatever you're singing. He has painted such a visual for you that you literally see it while you're singing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, because it's easy to do when you have a great lyric. Leonard writes these evocative, you know, profound lyrics that sometimes mean something very different based on your life experience. You know, this song could have meant whatever to me when I first sang it with Leonard 30 odd years ago. And then when I'm singing it now, it means something to me. In many ways, I would have directly experienced things that are within this song. So yeah, it like these songs, like these great songs of Leonard's, are songs that evolve like we do as human beings.
Mm-hmm. He passed in 2016 at the age of 82. He had a nice long life. Of course, that's only 2 years older than me, so that feels very young to me.
I think he's very young. I think he should have been around a lot longer.
And you remain friends to the very, very end. And we have a great photo. I love this photo. Look at that photo. I love that photo.
One of my favorite things, and this is in Leonard's tiny kitchen in the mid Wilshire area, where he stayed in this house. And I'll tell you, I would always say, Leonard, after we had these, 30 years ago, we'd have these really successful tours, and I was sure he made a little money. And I was like, Leonard, can you please like buy a house where I could feel that you were safe? Because I just felt like he was a little too exposed to the world where he lived, but he loved it and he was there till the day he died. I think that's the house he died in. But, I loved his little kitchen, and it's teeny weeny. And we would sit there at a little table and have coffee and talk about everything in life and laugh. And I'll never forget it.
Yeah. And he's with you always, I'm quite sure.
I think so.
And in the middle of all this musical madness that has been your life and continues to be your life, you got married to the most delicious gentleman, and who's a public figure himself, Claude Mann. Tell us about Claude. He's an amazing man.
He is amazing. And I got so lucky when I met Claude. I was engaged to somebody else. And I broke up with this person. I'd met Claude before, but he was one of my girlfriends that I sang with. It was her, he was like her best friend. And so, and he was in Hollywood and being an actor and, working in several restaurants, and adorable as can be. And I just had this, this thing back then. It's like, I would not date actors. And I certainly, like anyone that was super adorable, I just didn't want those kinds of problems. So I just said, nope, not even consider it. And then one night after I had broken up with my fiance, and I was having dinner at this restaurant where Claude worked, he kept bringing over these great wines, and he sat with us and we talked, and he was so funny that I just said to my girlfriend, she was having dinner with me, I said, wow, he's way like funnier than I thought he'd be, and super bright, really smart. And you don't always think like the cutest guy in the room is going to be the smartest, but he was. Right. In his case, he was.
That's right.
And then I had I thought, I have tickets to see Dick Shawn's one-man show. Dick Shawn was a one-man show. No matter, he was just sitting down. I loved him. He was fabulous, and he was one of the friends from Malibu, and he gave me tickets to his show. And so my girlfriend said, well, Claude said the same thing about you. He thought you were really delightful and blah, 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 blah. And I just said, well, maybe he wants to come to this play. So we went to this play together, and it was amazing. We liked all the same things. We liked the same jazz music. We we sang in choirs, so we loved the same classical music, and all that was really important in my life. I don't think I could anyway, not into sports. Yay! So perfect friend for me. And we became friends first for a long time before, deciding to jump into anything else. And it's been great. I mean, we raised a beautiful daughter together, and
Eva, we have a beautiful early photo of you. Look at that. Look at that. And the photographer is quite well known.
Ed Balfrey, my dear friend. Yes.
That is a great, great photo. Now, he's an amazing chef, and he was the one of the co-creators and hosts of that movie. Yeah, and a dinner
movie for 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah, for 17 years. And it was a great, great show, because not only did they have to make up recipes that were related to a movie they were showing. Right, so, you had to combine the two things, but it was all like improvised, and, you had to be funny, and he was the chef and he was funny. And so, yeah, it was a great way for him to be at home while we were raising our daughter. And we all jumped in. We all wrote recipe titles. We helped him with all the stuff with the show. So it was really, really fun.
Like you all jump in now with a wonderful, wonderful eatery where I was very honored to eat. Can we get that trio photo up? Look at that. Yeah. Where and I love it because it's farm to fork food is what it's all healthy.
And Claude has devoted his life more recently to baking bread. He bakes the most incredible artisan sourdough long rise organic bread, and it's kind of blowing up. You know, he's doing really well right now.
Well, the restaurant is mostly all outdoors. Have you been able to stay open during this pandemic? Have you?
Well, it's gone, you know, it's gone in ebbs and flows, because at first during the complete shutdown, we were only allowed to do takeout, and then we were able to open, and then we shut down again.
Yeah.
So it's back and forth, but it's knock on something, it's doing really well. And
It's
so
a wonderful place. Is your hubby floating around there? Is Claude?
Claude, you.
Is he ready for his close-up? Tell him it's time for his close-up.
There he goes. He was in his office.
I was watching in the other room.
Oh, he was watching in the other room. He
How
said
are we
something.
doing? How are we doing, Claude?
You can take your headphone piece out.
I'm watching on the phone.
How
You
are
guys
we?
look great.
Are we
You guys are
riveting?
so good.
Are we riveting?
Hey.
There he is.
How are you?
I'm great. We're talking about your beautiful restaurant, the name I can never pronounce because the second
Oh,
word is
roti.
Roti.
Roti like I like Côte Rôtie, the wine, which means roasted slope. This means roasted high. And it was right after the fire. And it gets pretty hot. But
it's a wonderful
rotisserie
restaurant. The
chicken.
night I was there, it was packed and it was so, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like being in someone's backyard and everyone was kind of talking to each other and going table to table. It has the most delicious food and the most wonderful vibe going for it. It's terrific.
It feels very European, I think. That's why I love it so much. It's a great location, and we're able to just sit out there and drink wine and enjoy each other.
And it's a great compliment to say that it feels like someone's backyard, because for
Yeah.
years we had an enormous backyard that was sort of an ongoing dinner party. And the whole idea was, if we ever had a place, you wanted to have that feel where you walked in and felt like you were at home.
Yeah.
And that's exactly
We
what
had,
it feels like.
like on any night, any given night, we would have 50 people over for dinner at our backyard. And I don't know what, but yeah, we had the energy to do it.
We were younger.
I do remember inviting myself several times and I could never quite get there. So, but I'll come back to the restaurant when everything was
absolutely.
fully open. Tell me about your beautiful daughter, Eva. Because she's a grown woman now. What is she doing?
She's got the biggest heart of anyone that you will ever meet. And she's dedicated herself now, really, that she's in a month and a half, she'll have a double master's in public health and social justice.
At UCLA. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she's worked at the downtown women's homeless shelter. She's decided what she will do is make the world a better place if she can possibly do it. And
Bless her. We
she's also a phenomenal musician. She's sung with Perla all over the world. And their voices are so close that when they sing together, it sounds
Kevin.
almost like Perla is doubling herself.
Wow. Now I know you were or are a percussionist. Did you ever play with them as you traveled with Eva? Did you?
Yeah.
We had a
many times.
trio for a long time when it was with Perla and David Batalla.
Yeah,
where
our first tour. Yeah, he was a member of the band and managed the tour.
But
Insanity.
I realized that I was much more valuable just trying to, like when we travel now, there's always, well, it's the definition of management is you're just using what you have to do what you need to do, and there's always problems. So when Perla's touring, it's better if I can be there to just see what I can do to head off the problems, because it's part of traveling. I mean, traveling is
It's
every day
crazy.
something goes wrong, and what do you do?
Well,
to
you know,
fix it?
you've produced shows.
Yeah, I mean, especially pre-pandemic, but traveling 10 years ago as opposed to 5 years ago, it used to be fun. Now it's just a nightmare.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's gotten very difficult. Yeah, especially if you're not, a big star and you're just trying to keep within your budget and move from one town to the next. Hopefully there's no snafus. Nobody wants to give you a really hard time, but they all seem to want to.
Always. Oh, you name it,
The
it's happened.
airlines. Yeah.
Now, what's
And
the buzz?
actually, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead, Claude. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was just saying on the last tour, what the worst thing that could happen is if the star is ill, and Perla did, when we were in Sweden, she got an awful virus that could have been early COVID, we don't know, but whatever it was. But we were in the airport in Stockholm, and I'm running around because we've got all these instruments that need to be checked in, and they always want to charge you 40 times what you should. So I'm going through every instrument, trying to get it checked in. I look back and Perla's on a stool, and then she just keels over, hits the floor hard. And this is like 5:45 in the morning.
And I did a show that night.
And suddenly she was surrounded by lovely men with machine guns.
They were adorable.
And they carried her downstairs, and they had a hospital at the airport. And somehow Perla talked them into, it's okay, I was dehydrated. And we got on the plane.
Yeah, I had to get on that plane.
And
Where were you headed? Where were you headed from Stockholm?
Where were we headed?
To
Another
Malmo.
Swedish city.
We
Yeah.
went to Malmo.
Or opposite, Malmo to Stockholm.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just, but that's just the last thing you want to have happen. But it happens. So it's. I would rather be there helping solve problems than playing percussion.
I think, yeah, you might want to play percussion a little more than solving problems.
Okay.
It's more fun.
Listen, you're both still young. You could have more children if you wanted to, but
Say that again. Just keep saying that, please. Put that on a loop.
Now, let me ask you this, because I know my New York Broadway friends, they're already, doing shows that are going to open in the fall, and they're doing deals. And do you find the concert world is already starting to feel they're going to open up, or what have you heard in your world?
Well, we've heard that, I've got a tour booked for October, November. But, we are constantly looking at the news, reading what's going on. And I don't know. I have to honestly say that we're just keeping informed and taking it one day at a time, because I'm not sure. And
you know what? It's true, because not only for the performers, because you can do things but the audience, are they going to be ready to go sit six?
There's a lot of unknowns
between them. I think it's a bit of a longer road ahead than we'd like to think.
I think you're right.
So good thing you have that restaurant going, Claude. You keep that open, because at least you'll be fed.
And I'll just keep eating.
Yeah, this has been such fun. I had the best time. Now this is fun too. Don't go, Claude. You can stay. This is where people have been writing in and asking questions and things. So Abelardo is back, and he's picked some good ones. Don't pick lousy ones. Pick good ones.
I never do.
Okay.
Let's see. We have one from somebody we know by the name of John Echeveste. He's saying, I was fortunate to see Leonard's last show at Staples Center, and it was one of the best concerts I have ever seen. What was the main thing, Perla, that he taught you that you'll always remember?
Well, I have to say, I was there. I saw that concert too, and he was not, and that was he kind of did those concerts because he had to. There's a whole long story about his manager taking off with all of his money, and so he had to do these concerts to regain the fortune that he lost. But back in the day, 30 years ago, he was on fire as a performer. Constantly, also just doing the improvisational, I'm going to show up, I'm going to tell his stories, and every story that he told, hilariously funny. Like, the man was a born comic, so funny, and the language that he used was so beautiful. I think if anything that Leonard instilled in me was how to tell a story and how to let things unfold organically. That's not something he did when he did the Staples Center show. Those were much more controlled shows because he didn't have much energy left. But back before that, it's like all stops were pulled, and it was electrifying.
I'd just add that I had the opportunity to travel when Perla was touring with Leonard, there was one wine that he enjoyed while they were touring.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a 1970 Chateau Latour.
This isn't that.
No, this is a 61. This is a nicer vintage. No, but it was a 70 Latour, which was for the tour, which was very nice. But it was it's a legendary first growth Bordeaux. And back then I was working in and around restaurants and actually was writing the wine list for a restaurant.
And it was before the internet. So
And it
Claude
was-
actually had to search for these
So
wines.
you had to
Yeah.
call people up, they were on a telephone and find out if they had this wine.
In their private collection.
And then we were able to travel on an airplane with liquids.
With a case of wine.
And so I would be able to take a case or more
Wow.
wine in 2 or 3 carry-ons.
That
and
were
I would-
worth thousands and thousands. Of
So I was
dollars.
kind of like, it wasn't cocaine, but it was the same principle. But I would show up and I would bring these wines, and Leonard was just, he was so gracious. It didn't matter who showed up.
So generous.
He offered them a glass of wine, and these, knowing how much they cost, could be $100 a glass. But I got to see probably 50 or 60 shows. And for me, there was this one point of the show where he would get up and play guitar by himself, the band would leave and he would tell stories.
Yeah.
And I would run to even if I was backstage, run to watch that, because what Perla said, even if he told the same story, it unfolded honestly every time, hilariously funny. And I also grew up around comedians. One of the funniest people I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I just never got tired of it. I feel so lucky to have, also to hear the music as well.
The ancient art of storytelling.
So
It is. It's they sat in caves and told stories. Not as funny as Norman Lear, I'm quite sure. But I see our friend Bill Burgess down in San Diego is having a good. That your story is inspirational. So you see.
Thank you, Bill.
Any more before we let these beautiful people go?
Sure, from Mike Atilano, it combines both of your passions there. Is there a signature dish at the restaurant inspired by or made especially for Perla?
Oh, well, everything that I make is especially for Perla. And we don't serve it right now, but if you do a web search on Bon Appetit, I've got ceviche de perlita, which was Perla's father's ceviche recipe from Acapulco, that anytime I've cooked anywhere or serve anything, that's pretty much my favorite dish.
We
And
love
it's-
ceviche.
And for
Yeah,
Eva's
it's
birthday, actually, when she graduates, when she gets her master's in June, we said, "What do you want? We'll cook anything." And she said,
Ceviche.
"Ceviche."
Perfect.
So yeah,
Yeah.
All right. Well, no more questions, but we sure do have a lot of people shouting out here. Jose Ramos, great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rachel Cohen, so wonderful. From Pam Lopez Gallardo, thank you for the great show. I'm going to YouTube to listen to Perla.
Oh, thank you.
Perla, do you have a website or someplace where people could join you?
Absolutely.
And know more
It's
about you?
perla.com, perla.com.
Well, that's pretty simple. All right.
And we
You
have
got- you got
people
that
from-
right away.
People from San Antonio, Phoenix, they're from all
Oh.
over.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
From Eagle Rock, from South Pasadena, my hometown, or where I'm living now. Gary Rodriguez from Shafter, Califas.
Wow. Well, it's beautiful.
Nobody
to
from
see you both.
Belgium?
So- Belgium?
Where's your Belgian friends?
Oh, I think they're probably sleeping.
they're fast asleep or they're still drinking.
Oh, thank you so much. I had the
you.
most
So nice to
wonderful
see you.
time. I hope you did.
I did. Thank you.
All right, Dan. Well, thank you, Perla.
I'll see
Dan,
you
tell us
soon.
who's up next for the happy hour.
Oh, we have interesting, very interesting, historic coming up, whatever that next date is. What is that date? We have Luis Valdez. So we're talking legend time. Luis Valdez, the father of Chicano theater and a brilliant man in every way, beautiful soul. And I'm so honored and so intimidated to have Luis come. I know him for years so well, and we're even related, by the way. Yeah, he'll tell it because it's very complicated to me, but I'm very intimidated to be talking to Luis Valdez. So tune in, everybody. You won't be intimidated, and I guess I'm done.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. And you could catch this show if you came in later. If you want to watch it again, please go to our YouTube site, YouTube at La Plaza LA, or on our website at lapca.org. And also on Facebook, you could rewatch it, along with all of Dan's 100+ other happy hours with the great guests that you've brought on board every other Friday night. So we'll see you, Dan. I'll just go ahead and keep making announcements here. But
bye, everybody. Thanks for zooming in and Facebooking in.
All right. Well, thank you all, everybody that joined us tonight for Dan Guerrero Happy Hour. Just to let you know what's coming up next week, we have on Monday, March 22nd, of course, every Monday at 3 o'clock, we have our En Casa con la Plaza Cocina, which is our cooking demonstrations by a wealth of incredible chefs, food historians, restaurant owners. But this Monday, it'll be en español with Chef Gabriela Melchun from Hacienda Guadalupe down in the Guadalupe Valley in Baja California. She'll be demonstrating sopes de chorizo and drinking a little bit of Gabi Rosé. Next Wednesday, a kind of a special, very relevant program, Asian and LA, Prosperity and Adversity, with Jeff Yang, an author and CNN opinion contributor. He'll be talking about the past and present history of Asians in LA County, the home, which is the home of the largest number of Asian Americans and Asian immigrants, especially now where he's going to connect the past experiences of Asians to the present, where there's so much problems due to the assaults incited by the racist rhetoric surrounding the pandemic. So please catch it. It's going to be a kind of a heavy one, but Jeff is a wonderful writer, conversationalist. You could catch him on CNN. He was on All Things Considered this morning. So please, next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Then finally on Friday, March 26th, on the eve of Cesar Chavez Day, which is next Monday, not this one, but on the 31st, excuse me, the 29th is Cesar Chavez Day. We're gonna have Oscar Castillo, one of our preeminent photographers here in Southern California. He'll be showing his images of Cesar Chavez, showing a selection of the images of the labor leader and telling the stories behind it. So that's on Friday, March 26th at 7 o'clock here on En Casa con la Plaza. So thank you all very much for joining us today. As always, we're on, you could catch all of our upcoming events and Casa sessions on our webpage, lapca.org, on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA, and you could catch all 120 plus En Casa con la Plaza sessions on our YouTube page as well at La Plaza LA. So thank you so much to our sponsors, Kaiser Permanente and PepsiCo, and we'll be seeing you real soon, if not both here virtually, and then I think we're getting close to a reopening of our museum and cultural center in downtown LA. So buenas noches a todos. We'll see you soon and have a real good night.